Chapter 91. Do you believe in gravity? You were just throwing it like that? Yes. There was no way for the discussion to last forever, but while they talked quite late, many of them quickly left when it was over, as it was easy to tell that Sona wished them to leave as soon as possible. Nevertheless, Rias wanted to stay, but Sona didn't let her and forced her to leave since she was bothering them. So, in the end, Rias could only leave resentfully, but she didn't give up as she also invited him to dinner to apologize for Issei's rudeness. Sona didn't have a reason to reject this since even if this vixen tried to seduce her husband every time there was a chance, she didn't want the relationship between her husband, the Gremory house, and Surzek to be stiff. Or rather, it was also Serafal's wish so the three of them could become friends with each other, especially when all of them were part of the malfaction. Nevertheless, there was no way for Sona to give her husband to Rias. It was all over her dead body. Still, watching their confrontation, Riser could only feel speechless, but he decided to ignore it since he just wanted to spend a night with his wife, trying the costumes and ropes he had bought previously. Then, in the morning, when they had woken up, Sona was speechless by his action. The summoning flyer, which was made by Riser previously, was thrown randomly using his wind ability. Usually, the devil would give the flyer or let their familiar distribute the summoning flyers on the street, especially those who were greedy. However, Riser didn't do all of that. He just randomly threw his flyer outside the window, letting the wind bring it. Do you believe in gravity, Sona? What were you saying in the early morning? What was the connection between gravity and his flyer? Frankly, I don't care about this flyer at all. If someone can't pick it up and it falls on the river before it is thrown into the sea, I am okay with it, but even with such a possibility, someone can still pick it up. Don't you think that it works like fate? It is like gravity pulls us together. Sona blinked her eyes as she understood the novelty of his action. After all, if there was really a chance that his flyer was picked up by someone, then wasn't it like fate? Wasn't it like gravity pulled them together? However, in her eyes, this devil summoning was nothing but a job. It wasn't something as romantic in his eyes. Still, Riser was having fun, so it didn't matter. Nevertheless, Sona thought that the chance of his flyer falling on the river and not being picked up by someone was higher. Even if it was picked up by someone, she knew that he might not answer the summoning. Why? It was because she could tell that he didn't really have much of an interest in summoning the devil. If there was a reason why he took an interest in it before, probably because he was just bored. As for gravity or even fate, she was sure that this guy was just saying nonsense. It was his sophistry. Well, I need to go to school. I will see you later. Sona kissed his cheek intimately. Riser, who was still half asleep and appeared quite sloppy, felt his wife was lovely. I have cooked you breakfast. You can eat when you feel hungry. Riser looked at his sweet wife, who showed such a gentle and caring expression, yet when he thought about her horrible cooking *LLS, he could only rub his stomach helplessly. Should I send you to the school? When he thought about the breakfast cooked by Sona, he felt that he might as well go out and enjoy the town when she was going to school. Is that okay? Sona blinked her eyes and asked expectantly. He blinked his eyes. If you don't mind that I am like this, then... Okay. Sona agreed without hesitation. Riser looked at his sloppy appearance as his beard hadn't been shaved, and he also hadn't taken a bath, but as a devil, he was still handsome anyway. Still, he didn't drive his car since it was quite troublesome to find parking, so he rode his Honda Super Cub, the most sold motorbike of all time. Naturally, he had a superbike or something similar, but when he thought Sona's thighs might be shown when they were on a journey, he decided to take the Super Cub since it was safer. Wearing his black hoodie and helmet, he helped Sona put on her helmet and then patted the back seat. Come on. It was early in the morning, and many of the students of Kuo Town went to school in various moods. Some were excited when they thought they saw their friends. Some were exhausted since they were using much of their energy during their individual activity. Naturally, those who were exhausted due to their individual activity were the three famous perverts of the Kuo Town. Nevertheless, the three of them definitely weren't the only ones who did such an activity. However, everyone's expression at this moment changed into amazement or even a daze since the beautiful and strict president council of their SK*LL was hugging the waist of a man as they rode on a cheap motorcycle. This scene was so bizarre as they thought that they were dreaming. After all, Sona was known for being rich, yet she sat on a cheap motorcycle with a strange man that they had never seen. Undoubtedly, the man's appearance was handsome and rugged, yet due to his sloppy and unshaven beard, it was hard for the young people to appreciate his charm. Yet, this was a normal thing since most of the females in high school still had a hard time understanding the charm of an adult man, but nevertheless, when they saw him, they realized his charm and couldn't look away. Nevertheless, they didn't think they could approach him, especially when he was so intimate with Sona. Should I pick you up later? Riser helped to remove Sona's helmet when they arrived at the entrance of her school. I might be quite late. While Sona wanted him to pick her up, she was afraid that she might make him wait. However, you can wait inside if you want. I have nothing to do anyway, but is it okay for me to enter? Riser didn't think that he would come to the human world again, so he didn't mind spoiling his wife. It's okay. Leave everything to me. I will tell the teacher later. Then, I will leave first. Good luck with the school. Still, when he was about to leave, he noticed Sona's expression was quite unnatural. What? Do you want me to kiss you or something? Well, while Sona was embarrassed, she wished him to do so. Geez, aren't you too spoiled? He kissed her forehead and then patted her head. Good luck with the school. I will pick you up later. He then left, thinking that he should have a culinary journey or something as he prepared his mind to finish Sona's breakfast that was waiting at home. Sona smiled, and when she was ready to go to school, she could see that everyone was looking at her in a daze, but she greeted them calmly. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kaicho. All of them answered subconsciously. Still, they wanted to ask her a question, wondering who that man was, but it was hard for them to ask that question, especially. Good morning, Rias. Good morning, Sona. Watching the soft, gentle, yet happy expression on Sona's face, Rias dug her nails deeply into her palms, almost causing them to bleed, showing how jealous and how much she wished to be in Sona's place. Nevertheless, Riser didn't know what kind of thought Rias had as he didn't have a mind-reading ability. When everyone was at the school, he spent his time playing around, trying new foods, playing games in the game hall, or sometimes helping the young mother who was in need of help. The last one aside, Riser enjoyed his life much since it had been a while for him to have such a normal life. Life without worrying about anything. A peaceful life. Yet, he knew that everything was only a momentary and soon everything would be over, so he knew he had to treasure every moment. Yet when he was eating takoyaki while walking, he saw a bizarre scene. Please give blessings to the lost lamb. Please give charity to us on behalf of the Father in heaven. He saw two girls wearing white robes praying on the road. There was no doubt they were standing out, and the people around them were looking at them with odd gazes. Still, he could tell that they seemed to be in trouble, especially when the two of them were staring at him. No, they were staring at the takoyaki in his hands. The hot and sizzling takoyaki balls seemed to emit a hot haze, tempting anyone who saw it. The shaved katsuobushi on the top seemed to dance and invite anyone to eat. The fresh seafood aroma and the delicious sauces also permeated the surroundings. Gulp, 2x. Riser could hear the gulping sound of the two as they were looking at his takoyaki. The two also somehow started at him with a pitiful and hopeful gaze. He took his chopstick and picked one of the takoyaki, jiggling around, showing how soft yet firm its texture was. Though, Riser ate the takoyaki without hesitation and even enjoyed it in front of them. Delicous. 2x. Growl. The two even became hungry as they kept staring at him as if hoping for a certain something, but Riser ate all of the takoyaki in front of them like a devil while showing how much he enjoyed it without even any intention to share a single takoyaki. It's good. It was good, but then why did you have to eat in front of us? Somehow, the two had the urge to beat him up, but as the servants of God, there was no way for them to do such a cruel and rude act unless the one in front of them was a devil. However, for someone who dared to do such a malicious act, There was no doubt this guy was definitely a devil. They must exorcist him. However, like the whisper of the angel, he asked them, "Do you want to eat?" 2x. Was he an angel sent by the Lord? The two thought at the same time. Chapter 92. As expected, my life in a human world is wrong. Riser brought the two to the nearby family restaurant and then looked at the two strange young women in front of them. Come on. You can order whatever you want. Huh? Is that okay? Won't we trouble you? If it was facing the protagonist, Issei Hayato, they might not have hesitated to order many foods and empty the wallets of Issei. Moreover, Issei was a devil, so they didn't feel guilty when they tried to empty his wallet as they were exorcists. However, Riser was different since they were strangers. Riser was just someone who just wanted to donate food to the servants of God. Still, he wondered what their reaction would be when they knew he was a devil, though. Nevertheless, it was also due to this lack of information that they thought that they should order one food and one beverage, but then again, with all the delicious foods drawn on the book menu, it was hard for them to decide which they should order. With their salivate mouths and gulping sounds, their eyes were like an eagle, hunting for delicious prey carefully. Yet, could they be blamed? They had lost their money due to mishaps and hadn't eaten for a while. Nevertheless, Riser knew that they felt reserved as he had helped them, so he ordered a lot of food for them. Yes, this steak, gratin, spaghetti. As he listed the foods one by one, the two young women were in a daze at his calm and mature demeanor. What was this? Did they meet a young master? Nevertheless, they were glad since they didn't need to worry about their empty stomachs. What's wrong? Riser asked when the two were staring at him. No, but is it okay for you to order that much? Yes, those foods aren't cheap. The price of the food was definitely the reason why they hesitated to choose which foods they wanted to order. They were the servants of God, so they lived frugally so that they wouldn't be in sin. Frankly, Riser was glad that he became a devil, or else he was afraid that he might need to throw away his worldly desires. Still, if he was asked whether he could throw away his worldly desires, was such a thing possible? No way. Riser was sure that if he was reincarnated as the exorcist or part of the church, there was no doubt he would become a heretic in the eyes of others. Now that you mention it, I seem to order a lot of them, but all the foods seem so delicious that I can't help but order them. I understand. That's understandable. With just the photos, name, and description of the menu, the two could see how delicious the foods were, so they also understood Riser's carelessness when ordering so many foods. I might not be able to finish all of them, so can you help me to eat them? After all, I am afraid that I will be punished if I waste so much food. Leave it to us. Yeah, we will help you to eat them. As a servant of God, they had a duty to help people, especially this gentleman who had kindly helped them during their crisis. Ah, God, please give charity to this gentleman. Amen, one of the young women said while using her cross. Another young woman also made a symbolic gesture as she prayed for him. Riser raised her brow and felt his head tingling slightly, but then that feeling disappeared. Was it due to the holy resistance? It should be the case since he was sure that he would be in pain when the two of them prayed for him without him having a holy resistance. Still, after the two prayed, they took off the white hoodie and showed their faces. Riser blinked his eyes and felt surprised since they were beautiful. One young woman had chin-length blue hair with a dyed green fringe on the right side and dark yellow-colored eyes. Meanwhile, the other young woman had long chestnut hair that was tied into twin tails, each held with a blue scrunchie with violet eyes. Moreover, while their bodies were hidden under the white robe, he could see that their bodies were good and they developed well. With their growth, Riser thought that the church wasn't as poor as he thought it would be. Yet, he couldn't be blamed for thinking so since the circumstances he met the two were when they asked for a donation. After all, if they had money, would they ask for a donation? As for their attractive appearance, Riser didn't feel there was anything wrong with it since who didn't like an attractive appearance? Moreover, an attractive appearance made it easier for one to gain a positive opinion from others, so it was also the reason why people who worked in this sector and similar sectors had an attractive appearance or always appeared attractive. What? Is there something wrong? Why are you looking at us like that? While his gaze didn't make them feel uncomfortable, his gaze was kind of strange, as if he was in doubt and suspicious. The chestnut-haired girl felt that he was looking at her like a strange person, which made her slightly dissatisfied. Are you in cosplay or something? What kind of character are you playing? Is it a nun? We're not doing cosplay. 2x. Yes, we are exorcists. Yeah, our job is to K*LL devils, fallen angels, vampires, and demonic creatures that can potentially harm humans. Then, the big thing behind you is... That's my sword. The blue-haired girl stroked the giant thing which she hid under the white clothes. I use this to K*LL an evil being. Riser blinked his eyes, but then only nodded. I see. I see. Still, he had confirmed that they were idiots. Yet, he also wasn't surprised since he could tell they should spend most of their time with their job to slay an evil being or training. With such a busy time and a limited workforce in the church, how could they even find time to study at school? So, it was normal for them to be a little slow on their heads. Still, his reaction meant a different thing in their eyes since they felt like he couldn't believe them. You don't believe us, right? How about I show you the might of the sword? The two were ready to show proof that they were exorcists. Enough. Enough. Riser was wondering why he was caught in the troublesome matter one after another. You see? In this country, it is forbidden to bring such a dangerous weapon outside like that. You might be affiliated with the church and an exorcist, but normal people and the police won't think of you like that. Do you want to be detained and enter jail? Do you want the church you are affiliated with to have a bad reputation due to your actions? We're sorry. 2x. The two young women lowered their heads as they let themselves be reprimanded by him. Even though he reprimanded them, they could tell that he meant well, especially when his tone was neither high nor low, so as not to make people irritated, yet at the same time, also made them understand how idiotic their action was. If they faced a devil, then it might be okay to be reckless, but they were facing a human. Riser wanted to say something again, but then he stopped. After all, as a devil, why should he try to educate the servants of God? Did he wish for them to become better exorcists or something? Suddenly, he felt speechless and had an urge to smoke, so he lit up his cigarette and smoked it to calm himself. Still watching him, who suddenly smoked in front of them, the two of them couldn't help but remind him. Hey, smoking is bad, you know? You should stop while you can. It helps me to relax from stress. Huh? Are you stressed because of something? Riser stared at the chestnut-haired girl blankly, causing her to become flustered. Still, he didn't continue to smoke and put down his cigarette on the nearby ashtray while thinking that this should be the last problem he had encountered, right? Yet, strangely enough, he didn't have enough confidence to say that. Still watching him turn off his cigarette, the two nodded, satisfied as they thought they should help him solve his problem, and continued to pray for his well-being to the Lord. God, please help this gentleman to solve all of his problems. Amen. Yet, what they didn't know was that their prayer gave nothing but just to add more of a headache to him. Chapter 93. Those Who Are Deceived. As the two ate with all of their might, trying to fill their empty stomachs, Riser just calmly sipped his black coffee and sometimes ate his fries, watching the two. While they were wearing white robes, he could tell that their inner clothes were revealing, if not seductive, especially when he saw their bare, healthy thighs and alluring curves from the silhouette of their bodysuit. As the representative of evil, he couldn't help but wish to make them fall into hell. Still, he was sure that he wasn't the only one since watching the holy being stained into black color and letting themselves fall into the depravity was definitely the pleasure of everyone who was born as a devil. However, there was no doubt there was one or two strange guys who didn't act that way. Yet, wasn't it normal? After all, like there was an evil human who acted even worse than a devil, there was also a gentle devil who was kinder than a saint. Now that you mention it, I haven't heard your name. The blue-haired girl looked at Riser curiously. The chestnut-haired girl also couldn't contain her curiosity and looked at him, waiting for his answer. Before you ask someone's name, you should introduce yourselves. 2x. They had to say this guy was quite peculiar, but they also knew how rude of them since they hadn't introduced themselves to him. My name is Irina Shidu. Zenobia Korda. That's my name. Telling their names, the two waited to know his name. Riser Phenex. Riser Phenex. 2x. The two murmured his name momentarily as if trying to imprint it onto their hearts. I will remember it. I won't forget it. No, you don't need to be that serious. Riser felt that they might as well forget his name since he was a devil. Still, since you are an exorcist, then are you here to slay an evil being or something? No, we're here to retrieve you from Excalibur. Riser. Zenobia, how could you tell such an important mission so carelessly? Irina puffed her cheeks at Zenobia, clearly annoyed. Irina, how to say? I just want to talk with someone since you should know how dangerous our mission is. Zenobia might seem careless and appear like someone who didn't use her head, charging forward like a bull, but she understood how dangerous her mission was. There was no doubt that she would die. No, she was probably going to die in this mission since her opponent was one of the legendary figures that appeared in the Bible. She might be the holder of the legendary Holy Sword, but even so, she didn't think her might was enough to match that legendary figure. Moreover, she was still young. Facing such a danger, such a burden, how could she not feel anything? If there was a reason why she appeared aggressive in front of the devils previously, it was because she wanted to hide her weakness. Frankly, she didn't even have time to relax, especially when her partner had been deceived, and all of their money was gone due to a fake St. Peter painting. However, her meeting with Riser changed everything. While their conversation was hardly good, and he even scolded her, she felt quite relieved and like she was at home since he talked to her like a big brother. Zenobia. Irina also couldn't control her tears since, while she was all bubbly, she was also under immense pressure. Moreover, like Zenobia, she also understood how dangerous this mission was, and she didn't want to die young. She still wanted to marry, have children, and have a family. Why did you cry here? You are the one who is crying. No, it's you. No, your eyes are all red. Look, I am not crying. As the two continued to argue with each other, Riser wondered whether he should leave. Do you feel better? 2x. Thank you for the parfait. Sorry for treating us once again. Help me to pray to the Lord, so I will become richer then. There was no shame on Riser's face when he said those words. Still, as expected, he didn't have a headache. Was it due to the holy resistance or his origin? It didn't matter, but he knew that there was no way for them to think he was a devil after he said those words. We will. 2x. Irina and Zenobia nodded with all of their might. While his wish was filled with greed, the Lord was kind and would forgive anyone. Moreover, his wealth was used to donate, so they didn't mind praying for him. Still, it was probably because they had nothing to do, so they continued to talk to each other. Naturally, the one who talked was only Zenobia and Irina. Meanwhile, Riser only listened to their story and gave a response to one or two. So, you're here under an important mission from the church to retrieve the Excalibur, the Holy Sword, which was stolen? Yes. 2x. Only you two? There are no adults around you. No. There are no adults around us. Yes, only the two of us. Were they so reliable that the church believed them so much? Or were they sacrifices and being discarded? Riser couldn't answer that question, and he also knew that he couldn't say such a thing to the two of them. Frankly, he thought of them as pitiful since, in the church's eyes, they were nothing but tools. Naturally, if they could get out alive, they might get glory, but could they? There was no way to answer such a question. Moreover, he also knew that they should have noticed such a problem since even if their heads were a little slow, they weren't stupid and rather sharp in certain situations. Yet, even with such a future before them, they didn't give up since it was their belief. Everything was for their Lord in heaven. Riser lightly tapped the cup, then asked, "Do you two have parents?" Parents? 2x. I do. Irina nodded. However, Zenobia shook her head. No, I was an orphan. The church was the one who took care of me. I am sorry. Riser apologized. No, it's okay. It isn't something shameful or anything anyway. Zenobia had this cool and calm expression, then looked at Riser. What about you? Well, I do. I have a family too, so they will be sad if I am gone due to a certain. Riser then looked at Zenobia and said, You might be an orphan, but you should have many people who care about you, like Shidu-san, on your side, so don't give up and don't die, okay? Zenovia glanced at Irina, who was looking at her with a gentle smile. The two suddenly became partners for the first time and then were together, facing various missions, then almost died. There was no doubt among all the people around her that Irina was one of the most important ones. Thanks. Hearing those words from Zenovia, Riser hesitated, but in the end, he sighed helplessly and took something out of his pocket. Corda. It's for you. Huh? Zenovia was confused, but then her eyes widened as she fell into shock. Similarly, Irina also widened her eyes. What was given to Zenovia was a summoning flyer. In other words, Riser, the man who had helped them from the beginning to the end, was a devil, the enemy of the church. Riser could see that their expressions had changed, but it didn't matter. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Riser Phenex. I am the third son of the Lord Phenex, the patriarch of the Phenex House. Phenex House. 2X. Naturally, they knew this name since it was one of the famous 72 pillars of the devil. When you feel you are being abandoned by your lord, then you can summon me, and I will help you. Then, he no longer stayed as left after he paid for their food, but then, Zenovia couldn't control her emotion and asked, "Why?" Why did she ask this question? Why did he wish to help her? Why? No. Why should she even say that word to stop him? I just want to help those who are deceived. Then, I will leave first. I hope that we don't meet again. He waved his hand and then disappeared from their eyes. While Irina was still in shock since she was still unable to believe that Riser was a devil, Zenovia was in deep thought. To help those who are deceived? Zenovia looked at the summoning flyer in her hand, hesitating before she put it into her pocket. Chapter 94. My first client. Those who are deceived. This sentence might seem unusual or even incomprehensible, but when one learns the origin of the Phenex House, one will understand the meaning behind this sentence. Unlike the other noble devils, the Phenex wished to return to heaven after 1,200 years, but in the end, he was deceived. This story was where his sentence originated from. Still, suddenly, he felt that he had become quite good at an exaggerated and mysterious act. Was it due to the effect of the creation of the name of his new organization? Riser felt that it had such a large influence on him, and he was afraid that he might create a new over-dramatized name that might give a shudder and goosebumps whenever he thought about it. Nevertheless, there was a huge problem that he needed to handle, and it was a matter of life and death. Sona, I have met the exorcists. What? Sona, who was about to start cooking dinner, stopped and then quickly approached him. Tell me. Riser looked at Sona, who was wearing a cute apron and tied her short hair into a small ponytail. He couldn't help but be mesmerized for a moment and thought that his wife was adorable. Kaicho, I will take care of the dinner. Yes. Sona was no longer in the mood to cook dinner since she was cornered about meeting her husband with 2 exorcists. Meanwhile, Riser secretly made a thumb up to Tsubaki, which she saw and nodded. When Sona is sleeping, you can go to Tsubaki's room. Even if you do something, she won't say anything and will just accept everything. Riser was speechless, but somehow, he also didn't feel surprised since, unlike Rias peerage members, who seemed like a family, there was a hierarchy seen in Sona's peerage members. Yet, was it wrong? No. Instead, this was how it would normally be. Frankly, Issei was amazing since he could talk about BSS and blatantly looked over his master with a perverted gaze. If it was on Sona's peerage, such an act was already punished. Moreover, unlike Rias' peerage, which she mostly received from her older brother, Sona gathered all of her peerage members by herself, and everyone knew what their position was. Lastly, all of them were helped by Sona. In other words, they owe a favor to Sona due to their individual problems. Still, it was also the reason why, even if he entered Tsubaki's room tonight, everything would be okay. Nevertheless, he still needed to talk about his meeting with the exorcists to his wife. Hearing his explanation, Sona sighed in relief, but at the same time, she was speechless since he could talk normally with them. They thought of you as a human in the beginning? Who could tell if you didn't show your devil trait? As long as they didn't show their devil wings or their supernatural power, no one would think they were a devil. Naturally, some devils had an inhuman-like appearance, so it was impossible for them to hide, even if they wanted to. However, if Irina and Zenobia wish to, they should be able to use a technique or a tool to detect a devil, but with their usual conduct, would they think such a simple thing? Still, it's good that nothing happened. The two continued to talk until the dinner finished, so the three of them had dinner together. Now that you mention it. As he praised Tsubaki's cooking *LLS, Riser suddenly remembered something that he saw when he picked Sona up at the school. It seemed that there was a problem with Rias peerage members. Yes, Sona nodded. It should be her night. From what I know, her night should be uncontrollable due to Excalibur. If there weren't any problems, Sona was sure that Rias would invite Riser for dinner with an excuse for an apology, but Rias was so troubled with her night, which had gotten out of control, so Rias hardly had time for that. Her night? Was it that feminine young man? Unlike him and Serorg, who was a big guy, Riser remembered that Rias' night was slightly sissy. Yes, that one. Did he have a connection with Excalibur or something? This might not be a good talk during dinner, but if you are curious, her knight is the survivor of the Holy Sword Project. The Holy Sword Project? Is he a blacksmith or something? No, the Holy Sword Project is a project conducted inside the Christian Catholic Church that is aimed at creating swordsmen who can wield the Holy Sword Excalibur. He was one of the participants. Was? All of them died except for him. Then when he was about to die, Rias reincarnated him as her peerage member. While Tsubaki's eyes widened, Riser only nodded and didn't feel surprised since sometimes there were many such strange projects that everyone agreed to. Should I say the church was stupid to allow such a project? I agree. Sona nodded. Was it worth it to erase their reputation for this strange project? Still, in such a massive organization, as long as they were kicked out and blamed the matter of the project on the person who was responsible, they would wash their hands clean. That's what the big organization always did, after all. Sacrificing the minority for the majority. Riser was sure that the one responsible for the project had already been kicked, and his name was pure black with infamy. Still, with the project ending in a failure, Riser wondered whether there was a worthy reincarnation of Kiba Yudo. Well, it's all due to sacred gear. If Kiba Yudo didn't have a sacred gear, then the Gremory house or Surzek definitely wouldn't tell his little sister, Rias, to reincarnate Kiba since such a failure had no potential. His words might be harsh, but the reality was like this. The Gremory house didn't do a charity or open an orphanage after all. Yet, it was also understandable since they were devils. It was like Issei, too, since if he didn't have the boosted gear, then would Rias even help him when he was about to die? Nevertheless, if Issei didn't have boosted gear, then he might spend his time peacefully as he enjoyed the companion of a porn video and his hand. Such a life probably wasn't bad at all. Still, the matter of Kiba aside, Sona was glad that nothing had happened. As for stopping him from meeting the exorcists, Riser wasn't a child, and Sona believed her husband knew best. Still, there was something that she needed to report. So you sent Saji to follow the exorcists? That's right. Sona nodded. It seemed that they had liked our cooperation, so they could leave Ko town as soon as possible. Did they have such a talk? Why didn't he remember? Oh, probably it was because he played a game and didn't even show much interest in this matter. However, it was great for Zenobia and Irina to be open-minded and work with the devil so that way they could finish their work faster and then leave and return to the Vatican. After all, if possible, Riser didn't really want to meet them since he could imagine how troublesome it was. Only suddenly did he feel something had called for him. What's wrong? Sona asked since his expression was slightly strange. It seemed someone had summoned me? 2x. You mean, someone picked up that summoning flyer that you threw randomly like trash in the morning? That seems to be the case. Riser felt weird, but then again, it seemed like fate, so he decided to play along. I will go out then. I am quite curious who had summoned me. Okay. While Sona was speechless, there was nothing she could do, and she would be lying if she wasn't curious. Should I accompany you or something? Are you my mother or something? Riser wondered whether Sona was his mother since this woman was quite protective of him. Still, he didn't say that out loud. It's okay. I will go on my own. It will be quick and easy. Okay. Without changing his clothes, Riser left for the place where he was summoned. Frankly, Sona could remind him, but she didn't. After all, she didn't want the human to have a good impression of Riser, so there was no need for him to leave her again. Moreover, I hope the one who summons him is a guy. Yes, Kaicho. Only Tsubaki nodded and wasn't sure what to say at that moment. As the light of the summoning circle illuminated the room, his figure appeared. Are you the one who summoned me? Riser asked lazily as he was looking at his surroundings curiously. It was like any other room. Quite normal, yet strangely enough, he could see a strange collection of books gathered on the shelf before he looked away since he was afraid those collections would burn his eyes. Riser might not have seen the cover, but the titles were enough to make him escape from this place. Frankly, if this place wasn't a girl's place, he would leave immediately. Yes, a girl. The one who summoned him was a girl. Are you a devil? Riser was staring at the girl who asked him this question. The girl's appearance wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't the most beautiful one. Her slightly messy brunette hair was tied into braids on each side, glasses, and gold-colored eyes. It might be strange or downright rude to compare a girl's appearance with food, but if Sona was like a luxurious meal at a 3-star restaurant, then this girl was like a breakfast prepared by your mother. It was plain yet calming and comfortable. This should be his first impression of this girl, but when he was about to answer her question, her eyes seemed to move into his crotch as she stared at it rudely. Riser was speechless and wanted to scold her since how could a girl be so shameless, but before he scolded her, her glasses suddenly exploded, and she had a massive nosebleed. Goa. Riser secretly wiped his sweat and somehow wanted to shout. What the hell was happening? Chapter 95, The Awoken Beast. It's another morning. As the sound of the alarm sounded, the girl yawned and turned off the alarm before she continued to sleep. She put on her blanket again and lay in the most comfortable position again until the second alarm sounded. However, this time, she didn't sleep again and woke up. Still, her eyes were half opened as she tried to reach for the glasses on the table on the side of her table. When she found them, she put them then yawned once again as she opened the curtain. She didn't move and just sat on the edge of her bed as her eyes were still closed. Aika, wake up. If you wake later, you won't be able to eat breakfast, you know? I am awake. She rubbed her eyes before walking out of her room and then went to the bathroom to wash her face and brush her teeth. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she thought it was the same morning and nothing had changed. It was kind of boring, but she didn't really hate it. Nevertheless, she wanted something to spice up her life, like suddenly everyone was awakened by supernatural power, or suddenly she made a contract with the devil. Frankly, anything would be fine. She thought as she put braids on her hair and clipped her back hair with a sigh. However, there was no way such a convenient thing could happen. She was just an ordinary girl. There was nothing special about her. Well, she had something special, but she wasn't sure whether it was good to mention this talent as it was quite wretched, and she was sure that everyone would look at her with a strange sight. She was different from the 3 perverts at her school who could blatantly and truthfully show their perverted side. She was a girl, and the relationship between a girl was quite sensitive. If she dared to say her special ability to someone, there was no doubt that they would alienate her. Even worse, they would talk behind her as rumors about her started to spread. At the same time, the guy would be wary of her due to this specialty, so she would stay silent unless that person was someone she trusted or didn't have a prejudice. Size Scouter. This was the name she thought of her ability. As she finished her breakfast and walked to the school, she saw several men walking in a group, and with just a moment of a glance, she could instantly calculate a male's manhood size. Frankly, she wasn't sure how long she had learned she had this ability, but in elementary school, she was alienated from everyone due to this ability, especially when she told the most popular guy had a small willy, causing him to cry. Yet at the same time, also caused all the guys to be scared of her. As for the girls, while they were quite curious, due to the fact that the girls in this country had to appear poised and feminine, it was impossible for them to come and ask her about this ability. Still, as the saying goes, the girls grow faster. She understood the meaning of her ability, and unless she needed to, she wouldn't do anything. Nevertheless, due to this ability, she was slightly more perverted than an ordinary girl. Yet, how could she not be? She could see the size of the manhood of the gentleman, so how could she not be curious about knowledge in that area? Nevertheless, it was truly impossible to fully hide what she was, but only a few people knew her nature. Asia-chan. Good morning, Kiryu-san. Kiryu Aika looked at the cute blonde foreign girl who had just transferred into her class. Naturally, the two of them easily became friends, especially when Asia was also curious about the matter in that area. Hey Kiryu! Don't give Asia-chan useless knowledge. Aika looked at the most famous pervert in the school and then looked at Asia. It was still a mystery how the two could be together, but she wasn't going to say anything and support her friend even if Asia liked this pervert. Asia, I will teach you many things to take down Hayadu. Please take care of me, Kiryu-san. While Asia was embarrassed, she nodded happily, yet embarrassingly. Still, due to Asia, Aika's days were nice and enjoyable, but then again, it happened to her friend instead of her. While it was fun to see the others by teasing them, she also wanted to experience something special. Falling in love? Well, Aika didn't have such an idea, especially when no one made her interested or made her heartbeat increase. After all, it was hard to fall in love when one could see the size of the manhood. When she thought a guy was handsome, that guy had a small manhood. It was definitely quite a tricky situation for her, but then she was surprised to hear the talk that Sona, the student council of the Academy, was going out with a guy. While she was surprised, she didn't pay much attention since her mood was quite mixed since even that cold president had someone who could melt her heart. What about her? Letting out a long sigh, she looked out the window absently until she saw a piece of paper that seemed to fly in the yard of the school. Even though she should ignore it since it might as well be trash from someone littering, she couldn't take away her attention. While she knew that it was meaningless, she just wished something to happen. Still, if she made a mistake, she could think of it as doing a good thing as she could put the litter in the right place. So, when the school was over, she went to the place where she saw the paper dropped, but then the words written on it made her frown. It's English? It was just a single piece of paper with a unique yet beautiful circle like it was made for magic. Then on the other side of the paper, it was written with something in English. While her English wasn't that good, it didn't mean she was stupid. Summoning? Devil summoning. She was startled and looked around, wondering whether it was a prank, but she didn't see anyone. She looked at the paper again, hesitating, before she kept it in her bag and quickly returned to her house as she wanted to check all the words written on the paper. The moment she returned to her house, she put down her bag and took out the English dictionary as she translated all the words into Japanese. When she finished, as expected, what was written on the paper was the instruction of the devil summoning. Everything is equivalent to exchange. When you wish to summon, I will appear. Depending on the mood, I might not come. The rules were so simple and easy. In other words, you need to pay for what you wish. Moreover, when she wished to summon the devil, then it would appear. The only problem was on the last, and she could see how lazy this devil was. Nevertheless, due to the last reminder, she had completely relaxed her guard. Lastly, there was no proof of whether it was real or not, so she didn't mind trying it. Anyway, what was the worst case? So, she tried to summon the devil. She closed her eyes and asked the devil to come, but then, she was startled when the light gleamed on the paper, causing her to throw the paper away. Her heart was beating so fast as she didn't expect that it would be real, but where's the devil? Aika waited for a while, but the devil didn't appear. Her lips twitched, and she wondered whether the lazy was the devil, but then the paper glowed once again, and a figure appeared. While she was startled, her mind was quite good, and moreover, his appearance strangely gave her a peace of mind. Nevertheless, his appearance made her speechless. As a devil, it was natural that he was handsome, and she had to say he was her type, but then again, he was quite sloppy, especially when he was just wearing a tracksuit. Are you the one who summoned me? Are you a devil? Still, after she asked that question, Aika stared at his face for a moment before she became curious and looked down at his crotch. However, her eyes widened as she fell into disbelief. Impossible. She was confident in her ability, and until now, there was no man who could escape her eyes. This was her first time seeing this kind of situation. Infinity. This is what she had seen when she saw his crotch. A famous philosopher once said, when you stare at the abyss will stare back at you. This was probably the meaning of that sentence. What was hidden inside the abyss was a sleeping beast that shouldn't be awoken, yet she had woken that beast to the human world, and she might endanger the whole world due to her careless action. Gua. Her glasses were broken as it was unable to handle the pressure due to the sheer might of his beast, and her nose had a heavy nosebleed before she fell on her bed. As she fell, she knew this was the real devil. Chapter 96. Is your request breasts? Are you okay? Thank you, Devil-san. The girl looked at Riser, who helped to clean up her nosebleed with a tissue gently without even frowning, and only concern was seen on his face. Nevertheless, it brought her a strange yet addictive feeling as she had never been treated like a girl before. It's okay, but do I have to pay something when you treat me like this? No, just think of it as a service. Really? Yeah, with the development of time, we, devil, also start to change. We are not asking for people's lives like it is the most natural thing in today's time. I thought the devil loved to eat the people's souls the most. Aika was speechless. That's a misconception. The devil doesn't take the soul to eat. Then what for? To learn. Learn. Yes, some make them into slaves or lovers. I guess that depends on the devils themselves. Hearing that, Aika nodded thoughtfully, and probably having a devil as a lover wasn't bad at all, especially when she looked at Riser. Well, this matter aside. Riser looked at Aika and then patted her forehead lightly as if trying to scold her. Have your parents not taught you a manner that it was rude to stare at people's crotch? Aika blushed, but with her perverted and shameless nature, she quickly recovered and stuck her tongue cutely. Please don't blame me, Devil-san. You have an amazing tool over there. When she said those words, she leaned forward, showing off her budding chest and crossing her slender, smooth legs, which were wrapped in tight shorts, as if trying to tempt him. I will go back. There was no doubt that this girl was quite cute, but her mouth was too disastrous. Wait, don't go. Stay a little longer. Aika hugged him tightly and didn't let him go. After all, it was her first time summoning a devil, and there was no way she was going to give up. As for being tempted, he had a lot of women. What kind of beautiful women had he never seen? A human, huh? It might be good to change the taste from time to time. Riser, will I get a reward? Probably. He let out a sigh as if he was exhausted, then said, before that, how about you introduce yourselves? Yes. Hearing that question, she knew that he was going to stay, so she quickly fixed her posture. I am Aika Kiryu. I am in my second year of high school. My 3 sizes are B85, W55-83 centimeter. Riser blinked his eyes, then introduced himself, ignoring Aika's last introduction. My name is Riser Phenex. Phoenix? You know a phoenix in the Greek myth, right? When Aika nodded, Riser explained. You can say that our house is quite similar to that beast in the myth. If you are still curious, you can check it on the internet later. Do the devil know about the internet? Aika felt her view of the devil was being constantly challenged by hearing Riser's explanation. Aren't you underestimating us too much? Riser was speechless. When you were still playing with rocks to hunt foods, we have owned our own civilization and many magic items that are similar to the modern items you, humans, have developed. That's true. Aika nodded and quickly accepted his explanation. So, can you do magic? I can. Riser nodded. Can you show me? Riser thought for a moment, then said, frankly, you are the first human that has summoned me, so I will give you a freebie, but when you ask a request from a devil, you should prepare for the price. In other words, you need to be careful. I see. Aika nodded and remembered those words in her heart. She was lucky that she met someone nice, but if it was someone bad, she knew that it wouldn't be so easy to communicate. Even worse, she might even lose her life. Nevertheless, she knew that Riser wasn't bad and even gentle, so there was no need to worry. I can tell from your expression that you probably won't listen to my words. No, I am listening to you. Aika smiled as she stuck her tongue cutely. Riser sighed. Well, whatever. I can do a lot of magic, but as a phoenix house, you can say that my specialty is related to fire, wind, and immorality. Fire, wind, immortality. Yes, Riser nodded. We can also produce phoenix tears. Phoenix tears? You can say that it is an elixir that can heal anything. An elixir that can heal anything. Aika was in shock. So, you should be lucky to know that you have summoned me. Unlike the other devils that could only use tricks and others, there was a huge benefit when one was able to summon someone from his house. Of course, it isn't free. You need to pay a price. I understand. An equivalent exchange. If she wished for the phoenix tears, she needed to give something that could match the value of that elixir, but what could she give? Her fortune? Her family situation was slightly above average. While it wasn't bad, she was sure that her family's wealth was nothing compared to Riser's, who seemed to be part of the Phoenix house, especially when his family could produce the phoenix tears. Frankly, the best thing she could give him was probably only her body. Her appearance wasn't bad, her body wasn't even more so, and, more importantly, she was a virgin. Lastly, she also had knowledge that she had learned over many years. While her experience in practice, her knowledge in theory was better than anyone. Moreover, she looked at his crotch again and couldn't help but giggle pervertedly. Riser. What should he do? Should he go back? While he knew that he might get a reward if he took down this girl, he felt strange when he thought to do so, especially when it felt like he was the one who was molested. Well, You don't need the phoenix hairs, right? That's true. Aika only realized that she didn't seem to need the phoenix hairs that much since none of her family was hurt or sick, so there was no need for her to think too much. Nevertheless, why did she feel disappointed? Yet, she couldn't be blamed since it seemed her chance to do something perverted with the devil was quite rare. Riser. Wait, immortal? Yes, I am immortal. I can't die. Riser looked at Aika and asked, do you want to become immortal? No, it's okay. Being immortal was good, but then again, she was still young, so such an idea didn't appear in her head. Besides those, are there other things that you can do? I can mostly do anything. Riser looked at Aika's chest, then said, I can also increase the size of your bust. Eh? Really? Aika asked. It's the magic that I have developed. Riser then pointed his finger at Aika's chest, and suddenly, her breasts grew bigger and bigger. What? Even though her breasts didn't grow that much, she could tell that her chest was tight since her bra didn't fit her current size, but then, her size grew back, and the tightness on her chest disappeared. Even though he was there, she opened her t-shirt to check her breasts to see whether something had changed. Riser. Aika didn't seem cornered by the fact Riser could see her breasts and asked, can you increase the size of my breasts again? Riser. Still, when she saw her breasts grow bigger once again, she understood everything. Then, you can also increase the size of your manhood as much as you want. Well, Aika nodded. Riser. Riser sighed and asked, so, what's your wish? He wondered why the one who summoned him was such a weird girl. My wish. Aika thought for a moment and wondered what she should ask. She thought for a moment, then suddenly became quite shy and asked timidly, Can you be my lover? Riser. Chapter 97. My client is a pervert. Lover. Yes. Riser blinked his eyes and didn't expect her to have such a request. We have just met, right? I fell in love with you at first sight. Riser looked at Aika, who appeared so honest and genuine, confessing her love to him. Still, he couldn't help but flick her forehead helplessly. Don't lie, you stupid girl. It hurts. Aika held her forehead and then argued. But I didn't lie. I want you to become my boyfriend. You don't have a boyfriend? I don't. Well, that's understandable. When Riser thought about Aika's personality, it was normal for her not to have a boyfriend. Aika, watching his expression, she had an urge to beat him up, but then again, she needed his answer. So, what's your answer? It might be too late to say this, but I am married, you know? Aika blinked her eyes, then asked, Really? Riser nodded. I had just gotten married lately. How to say? Wasn't the end of her first love ended so soon? She thought she would have a nice romance with the devil, but the devil told her he had married. She wasn't even sure how to react to the situation. Are you old? She looked at Riser's appearance and thought that he should be slightly older than her. Their age difference shouldn't be much different, right? So why should he marry so early? Or was he quite old? No, I am just a little older than you. Is that so? She sighed in relief, but even if he was quite old, she didn't mind since he was handsome and his tool was amazing. Then, it's fine, isn't it? I don't mind even if you're married. Aika looked at Riser with a confident expression. Don't underestimate the girl in this country. Even if they know the man they love is married, they won't care. Is it something that you should be proud about? Yes. However, Aika, you might forget something. Forget? Suddenly, Aika widened her eyes as he was so close, pinched her delicate chin as he stared into her eyes like a beast. I am a devil. I am not an angel that will treat you gently. His words were like fire. Aika knew if she reached him, she would be burnt, yet at the same time, like a human who saw a fire for the first time. Even if it was hot and might burn them, they tried to reach it, especially in this darkness-like night. Her breathing grew heavy as she knew she was about to be wrecked by this beast. Even if she showed her resistance, she knew it was impossible to stop him. Even if she screamed, he wouldn't let her go. Whether it was her body, soul, and everything would be swallowed by him. Yet, why she couldn't push him away? Why did she have the urge to accept her brutal advance, letting him do whatever she wanted with her body like he was a toilet to release his desire? It was something incomprehensible. Or was it because she was a pervert? The eyes under the lenses were moist as she was ready to become his woman, but then her nose flicked, causing her to be stunned before she saw him smiling. I was kidding. You are a girl. You should treat yourselves better. Yet, Riser seemed to overestimate the reservedness and underestimate the boldness of this girl as she took his lips without hesitation and greedily. while he was being pushed, and even seemed at a disadvantage when she tried to put her tongue inside his. The situation was reversed, and she was pushed as her brain turned into a mush due to pleasure. When he pushed her, her body wasn't like hers, and it was like every part of her body was controlled by him. His kiss, touch, sense, and everything enveloped him as if trying to dominate her. When they parted, they looked at each other, and he said, "Just enjoy, okay?" As she nodded, she quickly learned why he was called a devil. Subjugating, dominating, and turning her into a bit *H only for him was probably something easy for him, especially when his hand reached her private place, rubbing her brown pubic hair, smooth thigh, labia, and clitoris. If she could only cry a lewd moan like an obscene animal. HNGH. Then, at that moment, her juice squirted continuously, and her body shook crazily before she fell weakly on her bed, breathing heavily as she looked at the man who had turned her like this. This was dangerous. She knew it. The devil was a dangerous being. It was impossible for them to be kind, like an angel who was a holy being who would guide a human with kindness. Instead, she should expect herself to be tortured and rendered into a lowly being. Yet, even if she knew all of that, she couldn't stop, especially when she saw the massive tent under his pants. That seems dangerous. It almost burst out. Whose fault is it? I will take responsibility. Can you? I don't have any experience, but I have a lot of theoretical knowledge. Then, let me see what you have learned then. Like a dog who wished to please her master, she opened his pants clumsily before she was amazed at what was hidden inside. Her eyes were like staring at the most precious treasure, gasping as she grasped and struck his rod. It's amazing! Your wife must be blessed. Even so, there wasn't a single trace of envy and jealousy. It was like she was facing a higher being and worshipped him, so she felt it was normal for him to have more than one lover. Instead, she knew that she was the one who was blessed since she was given a chance to sleep with him. After all, she could tell that with his body, appearance, and a tool, what kind of women couldn't get. Whatever he wished to do, he could get them easily. Still, as it seemed delicious, she didn't hesitate to put the glands into her mouth, licking as she looked at him lewdly. Then, as she looked at his expression, she became even more eager to please him. She might be a virgin, but she had a talent. Her teeth had never touched his rod, even though it was huge, and her tongue was moving like it was her hand, sucking, clenching, giving various pleasure as she stroked his shaft. Facing such bombardment, he was unable to hold on and released his semen. While his reaction might not have been as exaggerated as hers, when she saw him enjoying her service, she was pleased and let his white magma soil her beautiful face and hair while drinking some of them. It had a slightly strange taste, but she enjoyed it as she kept sucking his tip like it was the most delicious thing. When she had cleaned up everything, she licked her finger and cleaned up her lips with her pink, cute tongue. It's delicious. Saying those words, she looked at him with a lewd gaze. Aika might not be the most beautiful, and some even said that she might be plain, but probably due to this change of taste, she made him into a beast. Chapter 98. Can you teach me, sensei? Congratulations, you have received archive magic. When Aika fell asleep, Riser didn't expect that the system would really reward him. He looked at his first client, who was sleeping, wondering whether she was part of an important character in the story. After all, that was how it would usually be. When he had taken down an important character in the story, the system would give him a better reward. If he gave an example, it was Sona and Aquino who gave him a rich reward. If he gave another example, it was like his peerage members, who didn't give him much even though their numbers were superior to Sona and Aquino. Nevertheless, while Aika's position in the story might not be that much more important than Sona and Aquino's, she should have a certain role in this world even though it wasn't much. The proof? It was his reward. Archive. It was a rare magic to transfer information to and from people for various purposes. With this, he was capable of coordinating the movements of his allies as well as knowing their present conditions and giving them new knowledge. That explanation might be hard to understand, but this magic was like a computer. He could transfer data to another, talk with each other, gain access to stored information, and convert information into magical data. Frankly, this magic might not have much power. No, it might even be useless when used in battle, but for support or even leadership. It was terrific magic. If he gave an example, if he wanted to teach his peerage members magic, he could transfer the information of that magic into the head of his peerage members like he transferred data to a hard disk on the computer. It was practical, right? In other words, there was no need for a long explanation as everything could be transferred into their heads directly, like data, and that data was implemented into their minds so they would remember it forever. Still, it was also due to this function he tried to use this magic directly. As he used this magic, he saw several flat screens projected into the air. He knocked on the flat screen and felt that it was pretty durable, so it could be used as a shield. Still, he quickly turned off the magic as he looked at Aika, who was sleeping by his side. As he observed her, he put his palm into his nose and smelled a distinct scent of her body. Every girl had their own scent, and each of them was special. Still, he had to say, he was really a devil. Nevertheless, with this, his first job ended with success, and he returned to his wife as if nothing had happened. Naturally, he didn't forget to burn Aika's scent on his body since explaining what kind of request Aika had made for him would be troublesome. After his first client, his days had been peaceful for several days. Rias and Sona also sent some of their peerage members to help the two exorcists retrieve the stolen Excalibur. Nevertheless, the result was still disappointing, and it might take a while for them to retrieve the legendary Holy Sword. However, while their peerage members were working hard, Riser spent his days quite splendidly. From night to morning, he would spend his time with Sona. When school ended, he would spend his time with Aquino. Lastly, when he went home from Aquino's place, he would meet with Aika. It might be strange of him to visit Aika, but then again, she was his first human, so she took quite an important part in his life. Still, there was no doubt that his life was like a devil should be. He was living a dirty, debauchery life. Still, he didn't do a dirty thing all the time since he also made an underground space and training space under Sona's house, managed his business in Tokyo, helped Nararahayan take care of his problem, and trained his muscles. Yes, muscles. While his physical ability was good, it was still far from the perfect state. His goal was at least to reach Sarog's level. When he had reached that stage, he felt that it was enough. Still, unlike his other abilities, it might take a while for him to reach Sarog's physical ability after all, unlike the abilities of Phenex and other magic that could be easily learned with talent and high intelligence. The physical ability needed discipline and hard work every single day. Frankly, when he thought about all of this, he realized that he had started to get far away from his dream of becoming a lazy bum. After all, what kind of lazy bum worked so hard every day? However, there was no doubt his days were fulfilling, and in those fulfilling days, he received a call from Magari, the leader of the Nekashu, who was also the one who trained Anai and Lee. "You're going to leave soon?" Aika looked at Riser in disbelief. They had only met for a few days, then he would go just like that? Still, it wasn't like she wasn't prepared for this since she knew that he was married. Naturally, she was prepared for him to leave her, but then again, deep in her heart, she also expected that he wouldn't leave and stay with her. It was like how the lover of a married man hoped their lover would choose them over their wife. Aika's current emotions were like that. "I came to the human world for business. I need to take care of it, so I will leave. You don't need to worry, I will return it when it is over." Riser, who was reading an Eki manga, looked at Aika, who was playing with his rod and patted her head gently. "Really?" Hearing that, she sighed in relief, but she still asked once again to confirm it. "Yes." "Wait, where did you live?" "Underworld." "You mean hell?" "No, it's different. An underworld is the world where the devil and the fallen angel are living. It is like an earth, but there isn't any ocean there. Try to read Divine Comedy, you will understand better." Aika realized that her knowledge of the devil was relatively low, and as she had made a devil as a lover, she wished to learn more about the devil. "Still, do people enter hell?" He fell in silence for a moment, then asked, "What religion do you follow?" "Religion?" Aika fell into silence since it was hard to say what kind of religion she followed. While she might wish to marry in the church, she also went to the temple or shrine to pray. However, this was the current situation of most people in this country. After all, compared to their everyday life, praying was something they would only do when they needed to do something. It depends on your religion. If you are Christian, then you will go to hell if you do something bad and go to heaven when you do something good. But if you are a Buddha or Shinto believer, then it will be different. "Then, have you been to heaven or such a place?" Aika asked. My ancestor seems to wish to return to heaven, but if you ask me whether I have gone there or not, then I haven't. As I have said before, You were my first human, and I spent most of my time in the underworld. Now that you mention it, are there so many devils in the human world? It's hard to say. You know, if I make a comparison, it is like a human who only stays in their country all the time instead of going to a foreign land. There are more devils who haven't been in the human world than those who have. After all, the human world, or Earth, isn't only a place for the devil, angel, and fallen angel. There are many myths, and all of those beings you think only exist in the fantasy also exist. Buddha, Sun Wukong, Dragon, or even a yokai like Nararahayan, Oni, or even Bakaniko also exists. To be honest, I came to the human world due to business cooperation with Nararahayan. Then isn't this world dangerous? If there was such a thing, then wasn't this world a dangerous place? Well, if you are not involved in this side of the world, then until you die, you won't be involved. But then again, it isn't like they are that powerful either, so you don't need to worry. Frankly, those supernatural beings that he had seen in this country were too weak. Still, he could see that she was still worried, so he asked, "If you are worried, how about I teach you magic?" Eh? Can I? Aika was surprised and eager. I can teach you. Riser nodded. Then, please teach me, sensei. Well, Riser looked at Aika and said in deliberate manner, that depends on your performance today, though. Aika looked at Riser for a moment, then picked up her uniform, wearing them in one go. Her lewd appearance had disappeared, and what was left was an innocent expression that only appeared on a girl around her age. Yet, while she appeared innocent, she leaned on the wall, showing off her bare buttocks through her short skirt and shiny pink streak. Sensei. Her voice was meek and seductive. Can you give me more? Chapter 99, Wheel of Fate. Aika wasn't stupid. Instead, she was sharp, and that was why she knew what the shape of their relationship was. Frankly, she knew that he only came to the human world for a holiday, vacation, or business trip, and it was also for that reason they could meet each other. However, if there wasn't such an activity, she knew that even if she died due to old age, there was no way for them to meet each other. While she knew that it might be cliché, she had a feeling that their meeting was due to fate. After all, he told her that he threw his summoning paper randomly, yet among all the people in Kuo Town, or even in this country, even the chances of this summoning paper being ignored by anyone and becoming trash was higher than being picked up. She was still able to pick it up. For two beings, a human and a devil, to meet each other among these billions, if this wasn't fate, then what was it? Nevertheless, she knew that for him, she was nothing but another girl. Meanwhile, she thought of him as something special. Still, even if she knew that she didn't mind since she liked him so much, and it was also because she needed to maintain a novelty and make him hooked by her so he wouldn't abandon her. However, if she learned magic, then could she meet him even if he returned to the underworld? Eager to achieve such a thing, she tempted him with various tricks that she had learned, then got him to teach her magic. Cough. Cough. Riser coughed as she looked at Aika, who was sitting in a seiza, manner face-to-face on the soft carpet in her room. He wasn't sure what this girl was thinking, but since he had promised to teach her, then he would teach her. Before I teach you magic, I want to ask you whether there is a type of magic that you wish to learn. A magic that I want to learn? Aika thought for a moment, then asked, is there a fortune-telling magic? Fortune-telling? He was speechless. Yes, Aika nodded. Like a tarot, astrology, Kao-Siam, or something similar. There isn't. I do have something similar, but why do you want to learn those things? Well, I thought that it would make money in the future. Aika stuck out her tongue cutely. Riser took something out of his pocket and threw it to Aika. For you. What is this? Aika was confused, but then she saw that it was a bank card. Bank card? Why did he give a bank card? She didn't understand why he did all of this. There is 300 million yen there. The password is written on the back. Aika. It was said that from baby to death, the amount of money that the majority of people in this country could earn was 300 million yen. In other words, just by becoming his lover for a few days, Aika had received the amount of money that the majority of people in this country needed to spend their entire lives working. It might be cruel, but the reality was like this. The value of someone could be equal to such an amount of money. This was this country. In a different country, the value of humans might be even worse than that of cattle. No, I don't want this. You can have it back. There was no hesitation in her words, and she returned the bank card to him directly. Are you sure? This amount of money might be great for you, but I can get it easily in a few minutes. Yes, Aika nodded solemnly. Somehow. I feel that something might change if I really accept your money. Love could be realistic, but she was still in high school, and even if she was smarter than the majority of people and knew the importance of money, she still had a certain ideal and dream of her relationship. Moreover, she was afraid that this money might dirty their relationship. Even though their relationship was always dirty and messy, considering what they always did in her room. Nevertheless, she also understood the importance of money. If not, then why should her parents continue to work late during the weekdays? Probably, in the future, she might change, but now, she definitely wouldn't accept this money. Is that so? His tone was at ease, never seemed flicated, and he just put the bank card in his pocket again. Still, her look at him was quite complicated. I only realize it now, but shouldn't you be an amazing devil? That's why I told you were lucky to summon me, okay? He smiled as he caressed her hair. She hugged him tightly and inhaled his scent deeply. I am lucky to summon you. Riser wondered why it was so easy for a woman to get emotional, but it didn't matter. Well, I might not be able to do a fortune-telling, but I can do a feng shui. Feng shui? It can make you feel better at home, lucky, and healthy. It seems quite good. She felt the future potential of this knowledge wasn't bad at all, even though it wasn't something that she wished for, yet a devil wasn't a god, they weren't omnipotent, and she understood that. It was amazing that he could understand feng shui. Then, I will transfer that knowledge into your head. Transfer. While she was confused, suddenly she saw him summoning several flat screens that projected into the air. When she fell into a daze, he manipulated his keyboard and then pressed enter, causing loading bars to appear on the top of her head. Aika became even more amazed, especially when knowledge of feng shui entered her as the loading bars moved. Frankly, it was his first time using the archiver to transfer information, but as expected, he felt that this magic was convenient. What do you think? It's great. I can understand a lot of feng shui knowledge. Before, due to his half-baked explanation, she might not have understood how amazing feng shui was, but after the information about feng shui was downloaded into her head with the archiver magic, she understood how incredible this SK*LL was. Okay, learn well. I will need to leave tomorrow. He hadn't finished his words, but this girl pushed him, kissed him, and started to ride on him. Tonight, I will try to dry you. Aika licked her lips lewdly as she stared at him with a condescending gaze. Was it even possible to dry him up? Still, what could a mortal do against him? But he didn't mind humoring her as, even if her struggle was meaningless, she was cute. As expected, it was impossible for a perverted girl like Aika to defeat him. Still, he needed to say goodbye to her, his wife, and Akino since he needed to meet Magari, and Enli. Be careful, okay? Sona looked at him sadly since he was about to leave once again. Don't look at me like that. I will go back soon, okay? Hurry up and go home. I know. He lifted her bangs lightly and kissed her forehead gently, but this wasn't the end since he continued to kiss her left cheek, right cheek, nose, and lips tenderly, hugging her tightly, then parted their lips and stared into her eyes with love. Then, I will leave. Only Sona felt reluctant, but she couldn't stop him and could only wait for him to return. Nevertheless, no one expected due to just this single decision. Something big happened as if the wheel of fate was moving and it was impossible to stop. Chapter 100, The Charm of an Adult Woman. Riser Sama. 2x. Enli leaped and hugged him tightly the moment he arrived at the station. Riser was also happy to see them since he also missed his cats. Still, as he hugged them, Enli accidentally, subconsciously, or even deliberately brushed their hands and thighs into his nether region. We miss you, yeah. Riser Sama. Riser came with a serious intention, but it seemed the world didn't allow him. Go ahead. The system understood him well, so there was no need to worry, but... Cough. A voice interrupted them, but neither Enli nor Lee was bothered by this presence. Sensei, we miss our master, nya. We can train later, nya. I want to make a kitty with Riser Sama, nya. Enli had enough training, and there was no way for them to continue to train, especially when they missed their master so much. Frankly, they thought that they would monopolize Riser when they came to the human world, but the truth? They could only cry when they thought they could only stay on the mountain and train. While they knew that they had become stronger due to that training, who wished to stay on the mountain? However, they knew that such a wish was impossible, especially when there was Sona, who was their master's wife, so as long as their master gave them some sweetness, they were satisfied. Magari stared at the two Nekashu sisters with blank eyes before she let out a long sigh. There was no doubt that a Nekashu was a powerful yokai among all the yokai in this country, but then again, when they were in the heat, it was quite troublesome, especially when they had found the man they had loved. It's been a while, Magari. While holding Anai and Lee in his two arms, Riser greeted Magari. Nevertheless, his action was like a pompous and playboy young master who often played with a young woman, but even if he had such an act, it was impossible to see the trace of overindulgence in his appearance. Instead, what Magari could see was a blazing vitality that was like a volcano. Frankly, this type of vitality would make her envious, but at the same time, it made her heart feel slightly strange and also, in the subtle state as she could understand why Anai and Lee loved their master so much. Even if he had a wife and many lovers, there was no doubt that it was easy for him to satisfy them. Still, Magari quickly shook her head since, unlike the youngsters who were unable to control her libido, she was 800 years old granny. Even though her appearance didn't change much when she was young, and she was even beautiful, there was something that one should and shouldn't do. Go ahead. Riser wasn't sure why the system said something explicable, but then he noticed the change in Anai and Lee. Wait. You have two tails now. 2x. He might be too preoccupied with his two kitties that he only noticed that Anai and Lee had two tails. Before they came to the human world, they only had a single tail, but now, the number of their tails has increased. Even though his knowledge about a yokai was still superficial, he knew that with the increase in the number of their tails, they had become stronger. We have become stronger, Riser-sama. Yes, Magari-sama has taught us to become stronger. There was no doubt that Anai and Lee had become strong due to Magari, and due to that, even if they were quite naughty, they still respected her. Moreover, Magari was still the leader of all Nekashu and the rare eight-tailed Nekashu, which was one of the kinds, if not the strongest among all of them, so the two had a certain respect toward her in their hearts. Thank you, Magari. It's okay. I don't hate to teach them, and they are also talented. They might be naughty, but as expected, Magari couldn't help but feel soft toward them as if they were like grandchildren or even a kid to her. Still, if there is nothing, can we talk later? I plan to stay at the hotel first. While Anai and Lee were eager since it had been a while, Magari could only feel speechless, but before she could even say anything, they had left, disappeared, and vanished, leaving her alone on the station as she wished to beat them up. When the night came, Riser walked out of the room at the hotel, leaving Anai and Lee to rest before he looked at Mount Tadayama in the distance from the window of his room. This hotel seemed to be related to the East Yukai faction, or had they bought it? After all, with him as their leader, they didn't lack money, and a hotel or two was nothing to their financial capability. Is it over? Well, they're sleeping now. Still, Riser then looked at Magari helplessly. Do you Yukai have a bit to sneak into the place of others like this? Whether it was Nurarahayan or others, they all loved to sneak into someone's house, making him speechless. It's a racial habit. Bear with it. Majirai sipped her tea calmly in a seiza posture, but if someone looked closely, they would notice she was far from calm, especially when her toes squeezed against each other, and her cheeks slightly redder. Nevertheless, as she was older, she wasn't a naive young lady who couldn't hide all of that. What do you think of Mount Tadayama? You mean that mountain over there? That's right. I feel a little uncomfortable. Frankly, Riser felt slightly uncomfortable and thought that this mountain was a little annoying. Magari chuckled. It's not surprising. You are a devil after all. Is there something special about that mountain? It's part of the 5 sacred mountains in this country. Mountains are very spiritually important in Japan, particularly in Shintoism and Buddhism. There are some individuals who dedicate themselves to mountains, the Yamabushi. Yamabushi literally translates to one who bows down in the mountains. While hiking in Japan, it is very likely you may come across Yamabushi on pilgrimage, particularly on the mountains mentioned below. The 5 most sacred mountains in Japan are Mt. Fuji, Mt. Haku, Mt. Tadayama, Mt. Tsukuba, and Mt. Yodono. I see. It was the same reason he felt uncomfortable when he entered the shrine or temple. After all, this place was a sacred place, something hated the most by the devil, a being associated with evil and malice. Nevertheless, it was also the reason why the original Riser felt the underworld was much better, as there wasn't any such a thing in the underworld. Still, it was also due to this that he felt a bit jealous of the reincarnated devil, or even yokai since they weren't troubled by this matter. Frankly, if it wasn't for the holy resistance given by Aquino, he would feel even more uncomfortable when he saw this mountain. Though, if he wanted to destroy this mountain, then it was possible. The reason why I wanted you to come here was because of Ni Enli. Magari could tell that Ni Enli depended on him, so his existence was necessary since being away from him made them unable to focus on their training. The other reason is... She leaned forward, bowing her head so deep that she almost put her head against her hands, which she placed on the tatami floor. Thank you. Her words were sincere and filled with genuine feelings. Still, as she bowed her head, the kimono on her body became tighter, showing the contour of her slim figure perfectly. The bowl-shaped breasts, which were just on the right size, a small, thin, yet elastic waist, and, more importantly, those childbearing, sexy hips. Riser's head was distraught by the scenery before him. Still, there is nothing wrong with Magari's age. She is still beautiful, and with her age and experience, she will teach you the charm of the older woman.